This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only and does not constitute professional advice. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the speakers.
So, welcome to Positively on the Spectrum, our podcast where we put a positive spin on life in the spectrum, finding your village and navigating neurodiversity. We aren't experts, but we're in it together.
Absolutely. So, one of the things that we'd always talked about was helping people at different points of their journey,
Yeah.
on their journey, and potentially like right at the start. So, I remember right at the start with my eldest, first time mum. I was also in a country away from all of my family and my own mum. And it was sort of coming into COVID time as well. And social media, I relied heavily on social media to get information and just as a mum in general, when it came to weaning, when it came to anything like that, there was so much on social media, but it also meant that I was exposed to other people's journeys. So when I started to pick things up with my oldest, for example, one of the first things was tummy time. She would scream blue murder. She hated it. It was as if it was putting her in serious pain. So I didn't do it. And I tried and I tried and I tried to do it all the time. But I mean, you won't. Like she was so upset and so beside herself, almost as if it was hurting her wee ribs and stuff. And so that was one sort of thing that I thought was strange, and then that then led on to struggling with her like mobility because she hadn't built those core sort of strength muscles up like most babies would, which was really difficult. Which then led on to delays in everything, delays in crawling, delays in standing, delays in you know um, bearing any weight, anything like that. So access to health visitors was limited. So again, like I said, a lot of it was me taking information from social media, and I started to pick up on things that my daughter was doing or not doing, and that's where I sort of started to think, oh well, maybe there's more to this. Maybe she is autistic. But initially, I was able to get a physiotherapist to come and see her based on the tummy time and the mobility and things like that, and it turned out that she was hypermobile, very hypermobile. She was like a little piece of spaghetti. She's still, I mean, she's still not much different. She's very strong now. She's strong and she's grown and she's incredibly healthy and runs about daft. But she was like a little piece of spaghetti, and she actually, off the back of that, she didn't walk till she was 2. She took her first steps the night before her second birthday, which was amazing because it was really something we had all worked so hard on, and when she took those steps it was incredible. And I remember thinking when my youngest took her first steps, I thought, oh well, there we go, because it wasn't such a journey for her. So trust your gut. That is the one thing that I will live by. Trust your gut. It will never steer you wrong, and whatever decision you make at the time is going to be the right decision because it was the right decision at that time. And that's something that I live by. And I would, if anybody said, what advice would you give to somebody at the start of their journey, that would be it.
So, I've just learned from you there
Right.
about tummy time.
Right.
No idea that was a sign.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't at the time, but now looking
So my
back.
daughter hated tummy time as
Mm-hmm.
well, and they push it so much.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good. You need to do it. Blah blah blah. And it was the same. She just cried and cried and cried, and I just thought, well, maybe that's just what they do when they don't like it. They just cry and they cry, and she was really really bad. And I was the same. I'd done it to a certain I'd done it to a certain point where I thought this is not fair. I'm not doing that. So there, I've just learned something from you.
Well, there
There you
go.
go. And with her, she bum shuffled, never crawled. So
Same.
there you go.
Same as
her. And she didn't walk till she was 18 months, which was classed as a delay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I didn't see any signs of autism in her at all until the speech came. The speech didn't come, didn't come. And I'd reached out, health visit had been out and stuff, and they talk about milestones and all that. And as far as I was aware, that she'd maybe missed some, but nothing was, showing that it was an issue and we needed to look into it further. And then it came to, obviously, her second birthday, and she wasn't talking and stuff, and I then reached out just before her second birthday, I'd reached out to speech and language, and they'd advised me to wait till she was 2 and then get back in contact. And I remember, like, this day of her second birthday, I was on the phone like, that's her 2, we're still no. She never babbled. She was almost mute. You know, she didn't babble, nothing like that. And then speech and language were fab, absolutely fab. She's seen them on a weekly basis, and then how our journey started. But I didn't see any signs or know any signs or look for any signs because it was my first child. So it was all kind of through at me quite quickly.
I think as well, the age, like this was quite a few years ago before anybody spoke about anything on social media.
This was like 8 years ago. So it was all before the vast information that we've got now, which is amazing. It's absolutely amazing being able to go onto social media and so you don't feel alone, and you see things and you think, wow, I seen that, I'd noticed that, blah blah blah.
And also to look at people who are further along in their journey, and I mean, even for myself to look at your daughter compared to mine, that she's now speaking and she's doing amazing at school and that kind of thing. It gives me that hope, and so it keeps, we've all got to sort of keep each other going.
Whereas the second journey, I was almost aware of not looking for things, and I was much more clued up on autistic signs and looking for things. And with him, I tried not to look, but sometimes you can't help. So I feel like with him, I was trying not to overthink things and just enjoy them, and but it's hard to not see these things when they're staring at you in the face. And I feel like professionals as well, you know where you're going with them, you can get them in quicker and in earlier, and I did get them involved quicker with him. And whether they could see it or they couldn't see it, at least it was all documented, and I was heading down the right path. And it's been a slower path with him, but I think it's because we've been on it earlier with him, and we're still obviously going through it. But the support is definitely a lot better this time around. It was like doing the course.
I think as well, nowadays people are much more inclined to share their experiences, whereas previously there was a stigma attached to it. People very much kept their feelings to themselves and kept their children almost to themselves a little bit, just trying to support them. So I mean, if anything, it's a bonus that people feel comfortable sharing so much with each other. Because I think as well, it's hard to establish when it is, for example, your second child. So with my second, sometimes I was concerned that her stimming and any sort of signs were actually learned behaviors. So that was quite difficult. And then that actually delayed myself in looking further into it, because I think I had mentioned in a previous video, I've got 2 very opposite girls. I've got one who's nonverbal and one who's hyperlexic. And had I have not been through that journey with my oldest and had input from speech and language, I never would have picked up on my youngest being hyperlexic. I would have thought, oh, she's a genius and she's this and that. And she's very clever and she's very advanced for her age in most ways, but emotional regulation and maturity, she's not. She's actually younger than her chronological age, and so it does trying not to dismiss things because you think that they're a learned behavior, but then also, like you say, you were trying not to look for things, but then some things were quite obvious, whereas I was trying to look for things, but the things weren't obvious because they were kind of the complete opposite of our previous journey. And because they're both girls as well, I think I kind of just assumed that if they weren't exactly the same, then they weren't the same, if that makes sense. So it's,
if I look back at videos of my daughter, I can see the signs that I seen with him in those videos, but at the time I didn't.
Right. That must be interesting.
So with him, I noticed the hand twirling really early on when he'd be sitting in his high chair, he'd twirl his hands and twirl his feet, and like my mum and stuff would be like, look at that, it's it's like so cute and stuff, and I'd be like, yep, and that was obviously for me was a sign. And when I looked back at videos of her, she'd done the exact same thing. But
Mhm.
because she was my first, I just never
Yeah.
picked up on it and
Mhm.
never looked any further into it. Whereas with him, and I kind of thought, right, well, that's something.
Yeah.
And then he was the same with the speech. Although he did babble, she
Mhm.
didn't. He did babble. Um,
Great.
so that's some snippets from the beginning of our journeys, and we would love it if you would share the beginning of your journeys or wherever you're at on your journey with
Mhm.
us.
If you've got any questions, you can always comment below. And we also, you can private message us on Instagram. Again, Positively on the Spectrum on Instagram. And I'm pretty much on there all the time, so I can answer questions. Or if you've got anything you'd like to hear us chat about, this week I'll pop a wee question box up on Instagram. And that way, if you've got any questions for us, you can send them over and we can have a chat, because we definitely want to be able to give you guys information and maybe share our experiences based on what you're looking for help with or support with.
See you next
And
time.
see you next time. Bye.
Bye.